Hello, I'm Gordon Lang, editor of CameraLabs.com. I'd like to give you a brief video tour around the Panasonic Lumix DMC TZ5. Here it is, the TZ5. It's the successor to the TZ3 and it's also known as the TZ15 in Asia, Australia and New Zealand. Now the new TZ5 boasts the same core feature of its predecessor, namely packing in nothing less than a 10 times optically stabilised zoom lens into a relatively pocketable form factor. Now if you take a look at the TZ5 from above or the side, there's obviously slimmer compacts on the market, but none which boast a zoom range as powerful as this. It takes you all the way from decent wide angle to pretty serious telephoto coverage, and we've got some examples of how you might use that coming up later on in the video. Of course there's some new features on the TZ5 though. If we have a look at the front, the grip's been redesigned. The horizontal strip of the TZ3's been swapped for this vertical grip here, and it makes the camera more comfortable to hold. Round the back, Panasonic has stuck with a 3-inch screen, but it now has a high resolution display. Now you won't be able to see this on this video, but this screen now boasts 460,000 pixels. That's twice as many as its predecessor, and it allows this camera to produce very detailed looking images in playback. Now we did notice that in use the TZ5 didn't seem to make the use of all of those pixels when you were composing your pictures or navigating the menus, but when you were playing back pictures it looks very detailed. Also new to the TZ5 is high definition movie recording. That's right, this camera can actually record high definition video in the 720p format. That's pretty impressive, and it's one of the first compacts that we've tested with that facility. And to find out how well that performs, check out our full review at the Camera Labs website. Now Panasonic has always had some pretty cunning automatic modes, but the TZ5 takes these one step further with its new intelligent auto facilities. This combines intelligent ISO of its predecessor, the automatic scene and face detection of the 2007 models, but now also adds an intelligent exposure mode. And when you couple all of those together, you've got a camera that really can have an uncanny ability of working out what kind of picture you're trying to take. And it does a very good job of setting itself up to take the ideal picture under those circumstances. And finally, there's the inevitable boost in resolution, 2 extra megapixels, giving this 9.1 megapixels in practice. So all in all, a few key features there. But now let's move on with the video tour and check out the TZ5's controls. Panasonic has greatly simplified the mode dial on the TZ5. On the TZ3 this had 10 positions and it's now down to 6. That makes it much more approachable for beginners. Next to that, the on-off switch, the shutter release with the zoom rocker, and a new e-zoom button. Press this and the TZ5 will immediately zoom into its longest focal length. Round the back you've got the usual 4-way direction controls here, and 2 buttons down here. You'll notice that this button, which fires up the superimposed menu, which I'll show you in a moment, has now been renamed Q menu. You'll also notice that the play control has been moved from the mode dial and is now in a switch in the top right corner. You switch it up to go into record mode, switch it down to go into play. And since we're already in play, it gives me an opportunity to show you one of the features that's borrowed from the earlier TZ3. If I go into the menu option, I can go for this dual play. And what this does is display 2 pictures on the screen at the same time, and the idea is that you hold the camera on its side as so. And by going to each of these pictures you can vary them and have a look at some different examples. It's quite fun to use in practice. Now continuing with the tour of the actual body, behind this door on the side are the ports. At the bottom a DC input, in the middle a combined USB and TV output, and at the top the new component video output. This is for use with an optional HD component cable that allows you to do HD slideshows on an HD TV. Finally, underneath the camera you'll find the battery compartment. The TZ5 uses the same battery as its predecessor, this rechargeable lithium-ion pack. And of course, like all Panasonic cameras, the TZ5 takes SD memory cards. We're outside with the Panasonic TZ5, so let's see how quickly it powers up. Flip the switch, and about a second or so later you're ready for action. Now let's check out the optical zoom range of the camera. Here we are zoomed all the way out at an equivalent of 28mm. And now I'm going to zoom in all the way to its maximum equivalent of 280mm. And you can see we've really managed to zoom in on that boat in the distance, but of course you can also see that I'm shaking quite a bit here. Now the TZ5 of course has optical stabilization, and to activate that you fire up its new Q menu by pressing this button in the bottom right corner. So I'm going to choose this stabilised option here, mode 1, activate that, and let's see whether that's improved matters. As you can see, that is much more stable than before. I'll zoom back out again to the wide angle. Now, like most compact cameras, you can overlay various graphics on the screen. If I press the display button here to the bottom right of the screen, we can overlay an alignment grid, which also helps you apply the rule of thirds. Press it once again, we get some detailed shooting information. Now you'll notice there was no live histogram there. That is, however, possible to activate it by going into the menu system. If I go into the setup menus, scroll down here, you'll see the histogram option there. I switch it on, go back, and there's the live histogram there at the side of the screen. Now you'll have noticed earlier that when I activated the stabilisation, I used the Q menu mode. This is what Panasonic's now calling its superimposed drop-down menu system. And it works in a similar way to earlier Panasonic cameras, but there's now more options on it. So if I press that Q menu button again, you can see that menu appear running along the top of the screen. And this allows you to adjust from left to right in the normal recording mode, the stabilisation, burst shooting, the autofocus mode, the white balance, sensitivity, the new intelligent exposure mode, the aspect ratio, the resolution, and also the screen brightness. You'll notice here I've got it set to the automatic option, and this will automatically brighten the screen when there's a very bright backlight. It's quite a handy facility and it does work very well in practice. Now I'd like to show you one of the new scene presets. If I turn the dial on the top to the scene mode, and I'm going to choose the last option here, which is called multi-aspect. If I choose this scene preset, you'll see 3 different frames on the screen. And I'll show you an example of how you could actually use that. The TZ5 actually has the play control here now in the top right corner, so if I switch the camera to play, here's a picture that we took earlier using the 4:3 aspect ratio. Next to that, what you'd get at 3:2, and you'll notice that it may not be as tall, but it's now capturing more width. Likewise, now if I switch it to 16:9 mode, again, less at the top and the bottom, but more at the sides. One of the other new features of the TZ5 is its ability to record HD movies, and I'm going to play one of those for you right now. Here's a movie that I recorded earlier. This is using the TZ5's top quality 720p mode. Now this is actually recording a 1280 by 720 pixel image at 30 frames a second. Now unfortunately you're not going to get to see the quality of it here, but when you connect it to an HD TV it really does look very good, although it has to be said not as good as a dedicated camcorder. We'll have a look at another video because I want to show you another feature of the TZ5. You can zoom out while filming a video, but there's a couple of things to notice there. First of all, it does dip in and out of focus a little bit, and you'll have also noticed, I'll just play that once more, that the zoom itself wasn't 100% consistent in speed. So it's nice to have the video zoom, but it's not quite as slick as models like Canon's PowerShot S5IS. The Panasonic Lumix DMC TZ5 is arguably the ideal travel camera. You get yourself a 10 times optically stabilised zoom lens that's packed into this relatively pocketable form factor. Now compared to the very slimmest compacts that are out there, the TZ5 is obviously quite chunky and it might not squeeze into the slimmest of front shirt pockets. But it will squeeze into any other pocket and obviously easily slip into any bag. And that gives you amazing portability considering the zoom range at your disposal. Now consider you're taking normal photos with the TZ5, it will act like any other compact, but as soon as you see something in the distance, maybe some wildlife or a passing celebrity, the TZ5 will let you zoom in and grab a decent shot, whereas other compact cameras just won't be able to get anywhere near as close. It gives you amazing flexibility in practice. But of course those facilities in this kind of form factor were available with its predecessor, the TZ3. So what about the new features? The HD recording, the high resolution screen, the more sophisticated automatic modes, how do they compare? Well, to find out, head on over to cameralabs.com, where we fully tested each of those features along with comparing this camera against its predecessor and other key rivals. You'll find full results, sample images and pricing for all of these models. So to find out if the TZ5 is the new ultimate compact camera, head on over to www.cameralabs.com.